There is a moment in every modern conflict where the invisible war of spies and cyber attacks finally breaches the surface. It stops being a game of shadows and becomes a terrifying reality of fire and steel. For 47 years, the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran fought a ghost war. It was fought in the deserts of Iraq, the shipping lanes of the Red Sea, and the hidden centrifuges buried deep beneath the Zagros Mountains. It was a war defined by proxy militias, denied assassinations, and red lines that were constantly being drawn and redrawn. But on the morning of February 28, 2026, the red lines vanished. The shadow war ended, and the sky fell on Tehran. This is the complete, step-by-step anatomical breakdown of the most significant military campaign of the 21st century. The United States called it Operation Epic Fury. Israel called it Operation Roaring Lion. But historians will remember it as the day the architecture of the Middle East was violently, permanently rewritten. In this episode of The Spy, we are going to look at the exact military blueprints used to dismantle a nation of 80 million people. We will break down the daylight decapitation strike, the collapse of Iran's layered naval defense, and the desperate, bloody retaliation that followed. To win a war in the 21st century, you do not start by attacking the borders. You start by severing the head of the snake. By late February 2026, diplomatic negotiations had completely collapsed. The US and Israel had gathered actionable, undeniable intelligence that Iran's nuclear breakout time had dropped to 0, and a preemptive strike by Tehran was imminent. The decision was made. The response would not be a warning shot, it would be an execution. The target was the Sadabad complex in the highly fortified Pastir district of Tehran. This was the residence of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. For decades, targeting a foreign head of state was considered the ultimate taboo, a geopolitical line that once crossed guaranteed total war. But the strategic calculation had changed. The strike was uniquely brazen. It did not happen under the cover of darkness. It happened in daylight. Israeli Air Force jets, utilizing intelligence provided by the CIA, bypassed the outer rings of Iran's Russian-made S-400 defense networks. In a matter of seconds, they unleashed 30 precision-guided bunker-busting bombs paired with Blue Sparrow air-launched ballistic missiles. The structural anatomy of the Supreme Leader's compound was completely erased, the reinforced concrete vaporized. By midnight on February 28th, Iranian state media confirmed what the world already suspected. Ali Khamenei, the absolute ruler of Iran since 1989, was dead. The psychological shockwave was immediate, but the physical destruction had only just begun. A decapitation strike creates chaos, but it does not win a war. Iran still possessed one of the largest ballistic missile arsenals on the planet, hidden in the very underground missile cities we have investigated before. To stop those missiles from launching, the U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, and the Israeli Defense Forces had to blind the giant. This is where Operation Epic Fury revealed its massive scale. The U.S. deployed the largest regional concentration of military firepower in a generation. B-2 stealth bombers, F-35s, and F-22 Raptors swept across the Iranian plateau. Their primary targets were not the missiles themselves, but the eyes of the regime. They systematically targeted the integrated air defense systems. They hit early warning radar arrays, command and control centers, and surface-to-air missile facilities. The strategy was flawless. Within the first 3 weeks of the campaign, Israeli and American officials assessed that 80 to 85% of Iran's entire air defense architecture was completely destroyed. The sky over Iran was now open. The coalition forces had achieved total air supremacy. With the defenses gone, the bombers went to work on the underground infrastructure, targeting production sites in Shiraz, Isfahan, and Kermanshah. Over 700 ballistic missiles were destroyed in their storage facilities before their engines could ever ignite. While the sky was burning, an equally devastating operation was unfolding on the water.
Move! Get out of here! They're everywhere. Keep running.
For years, the strategic nightmare for the global economy was the Strait of Hormuz. If war broke out, Iran threatened to use its fleet of submarines and high-speed attack boats to mine the strait and choke off the world's oil supply. CENTCOM knew this, and they did not give Iran the chance to leave the dock. In what military historians are calling the most complete naval neutralization since the Second World War, American forces targeted the Islamic Republic of Iran Navy and the IRGC Navy while they were still moored at their piers. The strikes hit the major naval facilities at Bandar Abbas, right at the entrance to the strait, as well as bases in Chabahar and Konarak. In the opening hours of the conflict, over 120 Iranian naval vessels were hit. Submarines were cracked open in their dry docks. Guided missile patrol boats were turned into burning scrap metal. The strategic logistics were brutal and simple. If the ships cannot leave the port, they cannot close the strait. In a single weekend, Iran's blue water naval capabilities ceased to exist. But a military machine that has spent 40 years preparing for this exact scenario does not die quietly. Even with its leadership shattered and its navy sinking, Iran's decentralized command structure activated its retaliation protocols. The regime launched a desperate, massive counterattack. From hidden mobile launchers that survived the initial bombing runs, hundreds of suicide drones and ballistic missiles erupted from the Zagros Mountains. This was not a symbolic gesture. It was an attempt to inflict maximum pain on American and Israeli assets across the entire Middle East. The missiles targeted the U.S. Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain. They struck the massive Al Udeid air base in Qatar. They hit military installations in Kuwait and the UAE. In Israel, the Iron Dome and David Sling defense systems were pushed to their absolute limits. The sky above Tel Aviv and Jerusalem looked like a meteor shower as interceptors collided with incoming warheads. But no shield is impenetrable. A devastating strike pierced the defense grid, hitting a building in the Israeli city of Beit Shemesh, causing the deadliest single civilian loss of the war. Across the region, the human cost began to mount. While the coalition achieved its tactical objectives, the Iranian swarm took its toll. As of today, the Pentagon has confirmed 15 American soldiers killed in action, with 332 wounded across various regional bases. The cost of the war to the U.S. military rapidly eclipsed $18 billion. We are now living in the aftermath of February 28th. The dust has not settled, and the geopolitical shockwaves are still breaking across the globe. In Tehran, a frantic succession took place. Mojtaba Khamenei, the 56-year-old son of the assassinated leader, was rapidly elevated to supreme leader by an emergency council. He inherits a nation whose economy is paralyzed, whose military infrastructure is burning, and whose skies are controlled by its greatest enemies. Globally, the economic impact has been described as the largest supply disruption since the 1970s. Shipping firms have completely suspended transit through the Gulf. Aviation routes across Asia and Europe have been severed. Operation Epic Fury and Operation Roaring Lion did exactly what they were designed to do. They dismantled the imminent threat of a nuclear-armed Iran and crushed its ability to project power. But in doing so, they have created a massive, unstable vacuum in the heart of the Middle East. 80 million people are now trapped in a fractured state, and the proxy militias that Iran spent decades funding are now operating without a master. The rules of modern warfare have been rewritten in front of our eyes. We have witnessed the power of total intelligence penetration, the terrifying reality of decapitation strikes, and the grim mathematics of ballistic missile defense. The shadow war is over. The hyperwar has begun. As the world navigates this dangerous new era, understanding the military strategies and hidden architectures behind these headlines is more critical than ever. We will continue to track every development, every weapon system, and every intelligence failure as this historic conflict unfolds. If you want to stay ahead of the narrative and understand the true blueprints of global power, subscribe to The Spy. Until next time, keep your eyes on the horizon and never underestimate the shadows.